Alright guys, so how's it going? So it's probably going to end up making a few videos today, more or less just to talk about different things, and then try to keep these videos as short as possible, because then they end up too long and who's going to watch a long ass video, right? So I been looking more into the CB stuff. I know one guy left a comment and he said to replace the coax. Well, I looked it up online a little bit, and then I don't know how good this is, but people were saying that you can test your coax cable with a multimeter. You have to have that one setting on it. Usually these cheaper ones won't have it. More or less the higher ends will have it, but there's a setting there. I forget what they call it. But basically, if you take your probes and you touch them together, it'll make a beeping sound. And then some numbers will pop up. I think that's... Basically, I think you can use that to diagnose if there's like a break in a wire or something. If it beeps at you, well, then that means that you have a solid connection from one end of the coax to the other and whatever else. And apparently you're supposed to put one on the little pin that's in the cable. That's your, that's what your power actually goes through and out the antenna, that little probe. And then the other one, your other whatever the hell they call it, goes to basically the ground of your wire, which would be your nut that screws onto your radio. Okay? Because you got to remember, this is like a positive and a negative style cable. Your positive is the very center of your cable. That's what your transmission goes through. When you transmit on your radios, that's where your signal is going through. And then you have your grounding cable on. We have that. Usually it's supposed to be your positive wire, an insulator, then like a grounding wire, and then your sheeting that you'd see on top of that. So apparently, if you do that and you get a beep, that means that there is no break in the coax, I guess. So if I did it correctly, well, it beeped at me. So that means that my coax is all right. There's nothing wrong with it. I think you're still better off looking at the one connector that's up on the roof, because obviously that one's exposed to the weather, so naturally that's going to get all crapped on and stuff over the years. But I did have some rubber tape on it. It's stretchy, sticky rubber tape. I don't even know if they even make that shit anymore, but my uncle said to get that. Basically, it's like tape, but when you put it on tight, it'll actually almost like look at it this way. It's almost like those rubber covers that you can put over a wire connector, and you would melt that with a heat gun, right? Okay, well that's basically that, but in tape form, and you don't have to heat it. It's like it self melts, kind of. I have a tiny bit of that left, but I'm hanging on to it, so I know what to get next time. I need to get some more of it, but that's what we did when we had the Workman base antenna up there, because I figured, okay, well, this could last 10, 15 years and, it'll be good. So, but then unfortunately a few years later, it did work for a few years, but then it crapped out. Basically that antenna is not really designed to be a base antenna. It can be used as one, and I think it's more or less to be used on boats. But it's a multi-purpose antenna. It can be used for both, from what the website said. So, but yeah, so And I did look up some more stuff, and this is where it's getting to be a little bit nerve-wracking, and not in a way either. I looked it up, and apparently, if you got to have your, what was that? Heard a big freaking bang of something. I think you have to have you got to have your SWR meter hooked up, and they said you can use a dummy load too if you don't want to actually transmit a signal out, which isn't going to bother me here really because there's nobody talking on those channels anyway, so it's not like it really matters. Even the trucker channel is no longer a trucker channel; it's a bullshit channel where everybody sits there and gossips. So, unfortunately, CBs are kind of going away, but they're still also out there, so they're just being used by different people now. But yeah, apparently again, I don't know, I don't understand half this shit, but apparently, if you hook your SWR meter up, and you have to have it set to forward power, which usually on my meter, that's how you calibrate it. You know, you're tuning it at this point. But apparently they said that if your needle moves, which it should move, obviously, if you're going to tune it. Apparently, if it does not move, that means that the internal guts of the radio, somewhere in there, it's blown out. And you're not transmitting worth of shit. For receiving, I don't know. That might go under a different category for that part of the radio. You know, so I think you would probably receive, but you just would not be able to transmit. So, I don't really know about that part. They didn't say that. So, the thing is that my SWR meter does move. So, and it sounds like if it does move, and you're still getting crappy signal, they said that it really all boils down to now is your antenna or your coax. And the radio is fine. So I think the radio is fine, you know. Oh yeah, another thing too is that this morning, well, even just about half an hour ago, I put my SWR meter back up. Like I said, SWR readings are in a 2. I don't really want to be in that range. I do want to be at least at a 1.5. So, being at a 2, there is more power loss there. If you look at an SWR meter and you look at this, like usually the upper one, there's 2 markings. Your upper one is your tuning and your SWRs, and then the lower one is your power loss or your power output, whatever. So if my SWRs are at a 2, it would be between what the hell was it on my meter? It was between a 2 and a 5, somewhere around there. It was like right in the middle. So whatever that would be, because there's no numbers for that section, so I didn't do the counting to figure out exactly where it was at, but it's just between that range. So that's your, I guess, percentage power loss or whatever, but that's still, it's a small number, but it can still hurt, you know, because it's just not, you know, you're losing too much power. So, but the thing is, this morning my antenna failed. Now, people have been saying about these radios since they came out is that you cannot trust any of the self-testing tools that are built into these radios. You can't trust the SWR meter. You can't trust the testing equipment either. But it's kind of funny how this morning my CB antenna fails. And believe it or not, it is a nice sunny, clear day. full sun, full sun. Not much for a breeze. There is a breeze, but there's not much. It's actually a little bit warmer today than it was yesterday. And, yeah, but it only failed for a short time there. Like, I don't know, it's weird. All these problems come and go. So, I don't know. I know somebody said to just replace the coax and then just kind of go from there. If I'm going to replace the coax, I might as well just replace the antenna too. Because in order to replace the coax on my antenna, I have to pull the pipe down. It all has to be basically taken apart to just to get to one part. So if I'm going to take my antenna down and replace my antenna, I might as well replace the coax too, or the opposite, whatever, you know. If I'm going to replace one, I might as well replace them both, and then get the ground plane kit for it as well, and just be done with it, you know. But as of right now, I want. This is not going to happen for a while. I ran into some other problems, and that's going to be in a different video. But the only thing that I can do for right now, because the base radio is probably not going to be working for quite a while. I'll just have to listen to Skip. But like I said, I want to get a battery put in the 1586 so I can test that CB and compare the base to that CB radio, and then from there, I want to test the Tahoe to the 15. Yeah, just to get a comparison, because if I know, the main thing is to know that the Blazer's putting out and that the 15 is putting out. If they're both putting out decent power and they can talk at least a couple of miles without no trouble, then I know it's my base station. I know for sure that it's the base. There's something wrong there, which, the antenna, more or less, probably. But to get an Antron 99, that's hellish expensive. So, and then there's another like $80 for the damn ground plane. So, but from there, because I want to do this right, and I don't really want to have any problems, I have to put up guide wires. I always call them guide wires, but it's actually guy wire, which I don't have the right type. I have the steel wire. I don't know where the hell it's at on my camera. Oh, there. I have this. It's just like steel wire. It's not like guide wire. It's not twisted strands of wire put together. This is like a solid wire. And that's really all I have. I got two different kinds there. Probably end up using the heavier stuff. Just because I don't want this antenna coming crashing down. Because the problem is that we're going to be putting this on top of my pipe, which is already probably like 10, 15 feet tall. And then you're talking another, 20, 25 feet for an IMAX, or an Antron 99. So basically, it's going to get it probably, it might get it actually slightly above my trees. I don't know. Can't really see it, I guess. Yeah, it'll probably get it, well, I don't know. The antenna's on top of the roof. I got to make a video on that for you guys sometime, but it's there. But that 102-inch whip, that's only probably like 9 feet, something like that. So, if you get a 20, 25 foot, I'll be above that tree that's right next to my house. Not the pine tree, but the other one. I think it was kind of behind the pine tree there. So, those trees will, interfere with it, but it really should only be a small amount. It really shouldn't just be like cutting it off, So, But I don't know. That's the one thing I can do. Is if I have to, I mean, you might as well replace the coax, even though I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Personally, I think it's still fine. I mean, the multimeter says it's still fine. But I don't know. It's just, if I'm going to replace the coax, I might as well replace the antenna, because I got to take all that apart anyway. So I might as well just not even bother with just replacing the coax. Replace all of it. So and I don't know what coax cost. I forget. I imagine the prices went up quite a bit since the last time I bought coax. So and I don't even remember how long this coax is. I know that I have quite a few feet of it still to spare down in the basement. But I don't know. I might try to order. I thought I ordered a 100 foot, but I don't remember what the hell it was. That's another thing I'm kind of scared about too. It's because I don't remember how long this coax is. I don't think there was ever any numbers on it, and I don't think I could go back in time. I should be able to. I don't know, but I'd have to try to go back in time on my records to see how long that coax is. Look back on my previous orders on Right Channel Radio and see if it's listed there. And if it's a 100 foot, I might try to down it. I think the next size down is 75 feet. So I just don't think I need it, because I have, like I said, I got extra in the basement. And it doesn't seem like much, but since I might route it a little bit differently, I won't need all that. So 75 feet might be enough. So, but I gotta look back on that, and I haven't done that yet. So, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, I don't know. So that's really the only thing I can do, really. Is I got to get the 15 CBs back up and running. I only need one battery for that. So, and see how it transmits, and then put mother in the 15, and then I go run around with the Blazer, like I said before, and do testing that way. But the base radio should be doing just as good, if not better. So obviously there's something wrong there. But it is funny how it worked. Even just like 1 or 2 years ago, it was working perfectly fine. So I don't know what the hell the deal is. It was working okay. So I don't know. Just have to keep, keep dicking around with it. That's what, I would hate to spend all this kind of money, right? And then it ends up being a bust anyway. Because selling anything CB related around here is going to be kind of hard to do. Because nobody's going to want them. Especially if they watch my videos, they're going to be like, well, if it doesn't work for you, it ain't going to work for me then either, right? So it's going to have a hard time kind of selling that back stuff to get rid of it. So I'll probably most likely hang on to the 102-inch whip, because it is a good temporary antenna. Especially if you just wanted to listen to Skip. But I don't know. So that's all I can really do is test the radios out mobile to mobile, like Rusi 6 was saying, but he was saying that should be no trouble. Those should transmit, talk back and forth with no problems. Yeah, but doing that just shows that, okay, we know that the Tahoe's radio is working because it's transmitting. The SWRs are perfect. Last time I checked, they were at a 1.00, so literally like the lowest that you can get. So apparently the Tahoe is perfectly tuned. Now that might change obviously with weather conditions, but it was all under 1.5 anyway, even on a cloudy day. So it's all within safety of, my safety standards. So anything above that, it's sketchy. And then if you get into the red, well, then you're screwed. You're going to blow up your radio within minutes. So, but I don't know. And then I know Richard 60 was saying, just get some handheld GMRS radios. I have 2 of them, and they work. From here to the farm, it's perfect. And the problem is that they are only maybe 3 watts, probably. Like, I don't know. I don't remember what they were for handhelds. They're more than what you would think, but their range is also garbage. I don't get that good of range. I get enough to get to the farm, but once you get kind of past that, it starts to get a little bit static. So you have to kind of understand, this is why I'm doing larger radios. This is why I wanted to switch over to GMRS. This is what I should have done. Now I learned even more stuff about GMRS that's making me wish I just would have done the switch and I called it a day. Because I learned new stuff about GMRS and I found out what their frequency ranges were. I didn't know what they were. Finally, I got the answer that I needed, and now I know what kind of antenna to actually get as a base antenna for a GMRS radio. Because I watched a guy on YouTube. Well, let's step it back for a couple of years. I talked to Midland a couple of years ago, and they said that if you wanted to use their radios as a base radio, you would have to use this style of antenna. Well, their style of antenna was a brand called Diamond. They gave me the make model, or the model of it, or whatever. I said that would work fine. Well, then I finally looked it up on YouTube to see if there was any videos on it, see if anybody was talking about them. There's a couple. The one I watched, the guy said that this was only for ham radios. So I left a comment. I was like, well, how will this work for GMRS? Because I was told that it would work for GMRS. He says that they're not within that frequency range. They're only within ham. So, and then he gave me their frequency range for GMRS. And then about half an hour later, he gave me a link to an antenna that they sell that it's also tuned for GMRS, but it has a much larger signal, or like a frequency range. So it has more use than just like GMRS. It can be used for other radios that are either higher or slightly lower than that. So, but they wanted like $100 and something for that, and I was like, that's a little bit too much. I found one on eBay. Of course, it's like a stainless steel whip. It's only apparently to them they said it's only like a foot tall, more like two or 3 feet tall, and they said that it was tuned. It's actually tunable. You can still tune it if you had to. They said that it's designed for GMRS radios. And I was like, well, I like the look of that antenna because it's small, it's compact, it's rated for 100 watts. I'll never punch out much any more than probably 50 through that if I get a 50 watt GMRS radio. And it has the ground plane already built into it. It's all one big unit basically. And I bet you, that was only like $40. What the range would be like out of a $40 antenna, who knows? But I bet you it would probably be pretty good. And then if I'm not happy with it, well, then I guess I just go get something bigger then. But if I would have known this stuff about GMRS even just 2 months ago, I probably would not have bought that CB radio for the toggle. I would have bought in a GMRS. Now for GMRS in a Tahoe, I would have just used Midland's antennas, which is, I have 2 of them already, and they've never been used, because I thought I was going to make the switch. So this is, like this antenna here, this is a true Midland antenna. These are already pre-tuned to their frequencies. And that's it. I don't know, that's good quality antenna. Not that I've ever actually gotten to use it. I have 2 of these. This one's actually for Big Red. And then I have another one that was either going to be for the 15 or the Tahoe, but it has the magnet base. This has, this has the mount. Of course, I broke the coax cable on it. This actually went right here where the CB antenna is going right now. It went right there, that exact same spot. So, you know, I mean, just think if you had that on there, you know, and then you had a 15 watt. A Big Red would probably only ever get a 15 watt. Not a 40, definitely not a 50, because I don't think I need that much punching power. Probably would not go with a 5 watt, just because I feel like it would be a little bit too small. But it probably would still work perfectly good. But either a 5 or a 15 watt would be perfect for Big Red. A 15 or a 40 watt would be okay for the 15. A 40 watt or a 50 watt would be good for the Tahoe or the base unit. But then again, you know, think of all that money that you have to spend again trying to, you know, and then I would have to sell the CB radio, the one that I have now in the Tahoe. I have to try to sell it, get my money back out of it. That takes time. Takes extra bit of money, you know, to ship that to whoever wants to buy it. And then, you know, I mean, to put a GMRS radio in the Tahoe, it actually wouldn't be that bad because I already have the antenna. I don't have the radio. And I don't know if 18 gauge power wire would be strong enough to feed even a 40 watt radio. I would have to probably get a heavier gauge wire to match that radio, because I don't think 18 gauge would do it. I used my 18 gauge wire on the CBs, and that's always seemed to be plenty for it, even during transmitting. You guys have to remember too, I'm not going to be transmitting for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours straight in a row. You know, these are just for emergency use and for a little bit of talking. You know, so, but like I said, knowing what I don't know about GMRS, I probably just would have switched over. You know, said frick it. So, but I don't know. I know that Rishi 6 you were talking about, just get some handhelds. They don't perform nowhere near to the liking. And then another thing is, like I said, I have some. I have 2 of them. And they work great. Sure, they work great. They work perfectly fine from here to the farm and a little bit beyond. They were good. The problem is the battery life is horrible. Especially now after the radios have been... They don't get used at all in the wintertime. So they just sit. Well, that hurts the batteries. So I turn them on every once in a while, trying to find, I guess, anybody that's using these radios to talk to, you know, or not to talk to, but just to have them on. Maybe I'll get lucky and listen to some Skip or something. I don't know, but but I don't really hear much. There is the school across the street. They use handheld radios, but I think they're using RF. What the hell is it? RFS or I don't know. It's like CB. They're free to use. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to have a license or anything. But I think it's just a touch better than CB. Not by much, but they're using that, and I can pick that up with my GMRS radios. So, That's what I try to do every day. I just turn my radio on for a few minutes just to see what they're going to say, and plus that gives something for the radio to do instead of just sitting there doing nothing. But this is why I like going with mobile radios, like the ones that you would connect to a battery, because one, way more punching power, and you can hook it directly to a battery. You could run a radio on that all day long, and you would not drain the battery down. So I've done it with the CB. I've had Big Red CB on for many hours a day during haying season, and it did nothing to the battery. Now, if you're transmitting, different story. You will use more power. But I've never ran my batteries down from just leaving the CB on. Because there has been times, too, that I do move the machine from one end of the field to the other. So you are putting a little bit of juice back in the batteries. But not much, but a little bit. So, but yeah. So that's just the reason why I don't really want to go with handhelds. Yes, they work, but they don't have the range, and the battery life is horrible. And I think on these radios, the batteries are getting weak now. They don't seem to hold the charge as long as they used to. I mean, you can replace them, but I still need the punching power. I need the range out of it, and that's where you can only get it through mobile. Things that you can mount on your vehicle, and they get, wired directly to the battery. So, unfortunately, yeah. And I don't know if I want to dare. I mean, that's really the only thing I can do. Well, the thing I can do for right now that wouldn't cost me anything besides just hold a couple of bucks in gas is run around with the Blazer and hook the 15's battery or CB back up and test that and yada 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 and do all that testing. At least that would kind of point me in the right direction of where I can go with CBs. Do I have to just bail out, or is there a fighting chance? If there's a fighting chance, well, then it might be worth it to invest in the base antenna and a new coax in the ground plane and go all out. But if I'm not going to get that far punching power mobile to mobile as a test thing, I might just be better at bailing out and then just going over to GMRS. At least there'd be more power there. It costs more money, but I really only would have to do the Tahoe and the 15, or the Tahoe and the house and the Tahoe. The 15, I can just use my handhelds. That will get me by until I can get a mobile radio put in that. But I don't know. Unfortunately, I should have just went over the GMRS when I had this stinking chance. So, but I don't know. You guys tell me, I guess. But like I said, I've learned a little bit more about CBs today, and then yesterday morning I learned a whole hell of a lot about GMRS. So that's why now I'm kind of regretting just not switching over to GMRS when I had the chance, because now I know what the frequency ranges are. I know what kind of antennas I can use. So basically, it opened the window a whole hell of a lot more, Before, my window was only open a crack. Now it's like literally halfway open. I'm still not going to be able to fit through it, but but you know what I mean, right? So it opened the window. It gave me more information. Really, all thanks to that guy that that reapplied back to my comment within like 2 hours. I was not even expecting him to reapply back at all, considering that video was like probably 2 years old. Figured, okay, well, 2-year-old video, he's gonna not even bother, or he's just not gonna bother. Period. Most people don't even reapply back to your comments, which is not helpful. Some people don't know what they're doing, and they need to be guided in the right directions. Why, when you don't help them out somewhat, it doesn't help their case any. So by that guy reapplying back to my comment saying, oh, well, you need this antenna, this is their frequency ranges, then it's just like, oh, totally different game changer. Now I know what the frequency ranges are. I know what kind of antennas I can use. I don't even have to use Midland's antennas. I can get my own aftermarket and I suppose just tune them a little bit. I think you'd have to get a different SWR tuner or meter. I don't think the one that I have can do that. I think it's only meant for CBs. So, but I don't know. So, but that's kind of another thing too, is that I wanted to put a radio in the pickup truck. Now in the pickup truck, I would probably just put the 5-watt in there because we don't drive that thing a lot, and a lot of the times, most of the time, we're just herding cattle with it. So, it would have been nice to have a GMRS radio in that, or a CB radio, because there's many a times that could have come in handy for when we were herding cattle. Because there's lots of times that I have to yell at the top of my voice because my uncle's not doing something right, or he's one thing, he doesn't like beating the shit out of everything, so he has to drive everything like he drives like he's 90 years old, even though he's not. But that kind of pisses me off because, like, when you're trying to herd cattle, you don't have a choice in being soft on your equipment. You have to beat the piss out of it. So that's why I don't like using my Tahoe. I want to use Big Red. Big Red's faster, it can take the abuse, and more compact. The Blazer is more bigger, it's clumsier. Yes, you can still get it up to speed, but then you're beating up that Blazer, right? But what I'm saying is that if I had a radio in the pickup or on the 4-wheeler or the Tahoe, instead of yelling my voice, I could just talk to the radio and be like, hey, get your ass moving, You don't have a choice here. You got to get going or you're going to lose the damn herd. So there's been times that two-way radios would have definitely paid off more than just emergency use and bullshitting, So at the end of the day, I think I just would have switched over to GMRS. But not knowing what I know now, knowing what I know now is pissing me off because now I know everything, or pretty much everything, and I could easily get switched over and gotten at least 1 or 2 Midlands, put one in the Blazer, and then do the house, and then, great. So it kind of bums. It kind of hurts the gut a little bit. It's like a punch to the gut, It's like, why didn't you give me this information like 2-3 months ago? So, what do you do? I can sell the Midland radio, or not the Midland radio, but the one in the Tahoe. I could go sell that on eBay and get rid of it, but then I have to find a box that it'll fit in, ship it, and that costs me money. And then turn around. I'm going to lose some money, obviously, so I'd have to save up a little bit, and then there you go, right? But then the CB antenna. What am I going to do with that monster antenna at the top of my Tahoe? I can't sell that. I don't have a box that big for it. So, there is just some stuff that you cannot get rid of. Now, I could try selling it on the Facebook Marketplace, seeing if somebody around here would be interested in it. But the chances of actually selling that are quite slim, especially around here. And nobody around here even wants nothing to do with CB radios anymore. It's all about freaking being glued to your cell phone. So, I don't know. It is what it is, unfortunately. So, I wish I would have known that stuff earlier. I would have switched over to GMRS and just said the absolute hell with it. So, but I don't know. What do you do? So, but that's it on that, I guess. That's just what's going on. Knowing what I know now, I think I just would have switched over to GMRS and called it day done. Would have cost a little bit more money in the end, but I think it would have paid off. because I would have, doubled or even tripled my range. So, but, and to use Midland or GMRS radios in general, you do have to have a license to use them, but getting their license is super easy. You only have to pay, what is it, like $70-$80, and you're good for 10 years. Which for these 10 years are going to go by pretty damn fast, but overall, it would be totally worth it, because to get your ham license to run ham radios, you have to read 10 million books, you have to study for it, you basically have to go to school for this. And then you have to learn things that you're never even going to do. There was another thing that you used to have to learn if you wanted to be a ham operator, but I think they pulled it now. You don't have to learn that, but it's that Morrison's code thing. Like when you hear all those little beeps all the time, that's Morrison's code or whatever the fuck it is. That used to be part of the testing. You actually had to test for that. But I think they pulled that now because nobody uses that anymore. This isn't this isn't the 1940s when that was actually technology and that was actually used to transmit, words. So that's how people talked. That was their two-way radio system, was those little beeps that you would hear all the time. You still hear it every now and then, but it's not actually part of the testing for ham anymore. As far as I know, it's not required anymore. You can still learn it if you wanted to, but I think that's separate now. You can learn that on whenever you want, or you don't ever have to. But there's a lot of other things that you do have to learn, and those are the things that I'm never going to do. I think you even have to learn how to build your own setup. I'm never going to build my own setup. I'm always just going to buy what I can buy online. Buy what's already pre-made and be done with it. Get a fucking antenna, put it on top of the roof, coax, two-way radio, or get the radio, install it, talk on it. If it breaks down, I'm either going to try to find a shop that can repair it, or I'm just going to junk it and get a whole new one. So, but I don't know. Kind of just is what it is, I guess. So, but I don't know. What do you do, So, that's just the way it's going to be for now. So, these wheels are starting to sag a little bit. That's interesting. That shouldn't be going on. Whatever. Anyways, guys, I guess I'm going to take off. I'm going to make another video here, and that way they're a little bit shorter and whatever else. So, yeah, I know you guys tell me, I guess, but that's what I've learned so far, I guess. Learned a lot more about GMRS, and then I learned a little bit more about CB. So, I don't know if it's worth it or not. But like I said, I want to test the mobile-to-mobile setup. Seeing what we get out of that. If that works fantastic, well then it's just a base setup. It's all kinds of messed up over there. That antenna's going to have to go. The coax might be okay, but you might as well replace it if you're going to be there. And then just be done with it. So, but yeah, man, guys, I guess I'm going to take off. So I guess I have a good day and stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take her easy.